Welcome to Perspectives on Social Justice, where we continue to give the world a voice. I am Lairalaine White, your host. This month, our show focuses on the status of the church. Tonight, I've gathered church leaders from across the country to discuss these important developments that are unique to their context, and we will get started. This particular dialogue shifted to care for wounded healers, clergy equity, and equal pay. Social justice from the standpoint of the church. We've had two males. I'm not going to say males. We've had two people to be elected here in the state of Georgia to the United States Senate. One is a preacher, notable of the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church. The other, the first Jewish American out of the state of Georgia. How involved should the church be in politics? Y'all say what?
100%. I mean, a lot of churches have done that. A lot of religious organizations. You have Live Free with Michael McBride. You have so many organizations. I mean, even the Southern Christian League. We've always been on the forefront politically as a church, getting voters out to vote. The voters' right oppression and suppression that's happening there in Georgia. Every church should be out trying to work out those laws that have just gone past. I mean, so we have to be, our voices have to be heard. They have to be vital. We have to use the equity, the numbers of people we have that under the sound of our voices are able to make some sound decisions. We have to put people in place in order so that when decisions are made at the top, we have people in place that have a spirit of discernment and that can fight the good fight and be able to exercise their power and ability. So the church has always been on the forefront politically, whether it's your church or somebody else's church. There's been some churches that are out there politically trying to make some change. And it's just imperative. The Black church has always been out there. I mean, we could do the roll call. It's always been out there for social justice, for justice for the people, just for the people. We've always been out there from civil rights, even before that, always been out there for the people. And we will continue to be out there for the people because guess what? We got people in our churches. And so we have to fight for them. We have to fight for them. And so we will always be. When I got babies been shot at my church. I got to hold funerals. We gotta be. And we gotta talk about grief ministries for young people because half of their friends have been shot and killed. All my friends are alive.
And
half of theirs.
Suicide. Some of them committing
suicide.
Absolutely.
It's horrible.
And alarming
so we got to talk about grief as well. We got to talk about all that, that play when injustices happen. We got to have the backup plan. We got to have the backup plan to support families and communities when injustices happen. So we're always in the forefront. We're always going to be, whether you like it or not. It's going to come to your pulpit. It's going to come to your door. So we got to be ready.
Got to be ready. Dr. Fortson, final words?
I think that what Pastor Kim has said is absolutely important. I think the church has to be what it has been as it relates to encouraging its members to vote. I know when I read Fannie Lou Hamer's story, and she said the first time she heard of social justice, what charged her was she was in the church when she heard that. And I know that Souls to the Polls has been a huge campaign. It has meant the world to our community. Souls to the Polls. You think about what the Black church, when you talk about everything from Adam Clayton Powell all the way to Pastor Warnock. What an amazing presence the Black church has had in voting politics. And even as we sit today, my church has been a voter registration site. We have also partnered with others to rent vans on voting day. And so if we are silent, if we don't speak out, if we're not active, I think we lose a great deal. We lose, I'm going to argue and say, the majority of our voice, because at the end of the day, we used to have a bishop in our church that used to say, it's hard to tell a man about Jesus if he's hungry. It's hard to tell a man about Jesus if he can't see his way. It's hard to tell a man about Jesus if he's homeless. Though, if when you talk about Jesus, spending 85% of his ministry not preaching, but meeting the needs of people, voting is absolutely paramount to ensure that
and I love it.
needs in our communities are met.
And I love it when we bring Jesus into it, because I tell people all the time that Jesus Christ was one of the very first social justice activists.
Absolutely.
His entire ministry was about activism and fighting for those who were disenfranchised.
But I would argue, check out the book of James. If you ever want to check out those 4 chapters of the book of James, if you want to really get a strong biblical undergirding, I know Isaiah and the prophets were social justice advocates, but if you want to get you a Greek, if you want to get New Testament, check out the book of James. Those 4 chapters will change your mind and life.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a great theology in the book of James. Yep. Dr. Buckson, you have any final remarks on how involved should the church be in politics?
I think very much so. And I say it like this all the time. We are called to teach people to fish, and to teach people to advocate for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But the church has to be involved to the point where we are no longer just teaching people to fish, but we are resourcing people to own the lake so that they can sell their own fish.
That's good.
And that also means, in order for that to happen, they can't fish in polluted lakes. That's called advocacy, right? We can't just get the polluted lake. We have to make sure that we are elevating ourselves from the handout ministry to the resourced ministry. And I hope that as we continue to grow in what we see as the church, we realize that all of what we're talking about is not separate. It is the work that we do as the body of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
It's not segmented. It's the work we do as the body of Christ.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Pastor Buckson, can I send you an offering?
Absolutely. $sign Susan Buckson.
I love
it.
Cash App. It is.
Good. Hey, you just preached. Hey, you just preached.
Yes.
Preachers. We have talked about reopening the church and the church's demographic and their feelings on in-person worship. We have addressed the position on the online ministry and reimagining church engagement. Very impressed with the At Home with Alan Temple concept. It's awesome. Dr. Buckson, I expect nothing but awesomeness from you at all times. We have talked about the church in the wake of denominations grappling with the subject of sexual equity, racial equity, and homosexuality in the church. Preachers, we have talked about our position on equal pay among the ranks in the church, and have determined that it is very contextual in terms of how how that happens, equal pay. And we have closed with how involved should the church be in church ministry? I'm sorry, should the church be in politics? I also would argue that, will not argue, but state as a fact. I take the position that even when we are present, when we as preachers are present in the midst of politics, in the midst of 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 any type of controversy, when we are present in the midst of good things, when we are present in the midst of sickness, when we are present in the midst of anything that impacts our congregation and communities around the world, we have a very powerful presence, and we need to make sure that we use that presence to the glory of God. That's what we're called to do. And we see the evidence of that. An attorney for one of the 3 white men standing trial in the death of Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia says that he did not want any more Black pastors in the courtroom. That is part of the evidence of the impact that we have. And a lot of times we can go and we don't even have to say a word, just be present. And on that note, I'm going to end this discussion. We will, it's always great to have my colleagues. I've got some outstanding colleagues here that have participated in this conversation. But on that, and we're going to go ahead and close this out. And with that, I want to quote the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King when he says that whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly. Because I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And this is the interrelated structure of reality. And on that note, I will bid everyone good night.
Good night, you guys.
But on that, and we're going to go ahead and close this out. And with that, I want to quote the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King when he says that whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly. Because I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be.